Cousin Jared, we are back for baseball Thursday, September 28th, your last baseball show of the season, our second to last baseball show of the season here before we shift into exclusive football until college basketball comes back.
Yeah, I don't know where has the time gone. I really don't know where has the time gone.
You know, I think there is something to that time travels faster as you get older. And it makes sense because each day is a smaller percentage of your life. And so it really does feel like it flies because of the amount of time you have. It's one of those weird math quirks, right?
Yep.
That definitely makes sense. Yeah, the time has really flown this year. It's been a pretty solid season for the most part. I feel like no complaints from myself. Getting the grades and the totals here at the end of the season is something I'm excited for next year. I know you are as well.
Oh yeah, anytime there's totals involved, I'm over the moon. Well, actually, I'm under the moon, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. So far, at least this week, the A grade totals 5, 1, and 2, and so again, it's been a good thing.
Almost like the grades are working as intended.
Almost like they're working as intended. We've got a nice Thursday full of baseball from start to finish of the day, basically. We're going to kick it off 1:10 p.m. Eastern with the A's and the Twins. They're playing right now. The A's have scored a few more runs than we expected. And this game's not over yet, so we'll can't really talk about the fact that we did cover this game yesterday. Don't know how it's going to play out yet, if the over's going to hit or not. Quick turnaround here for Thursday afternoon. Luis Medina, Sonny Gray. Everyone take note, if you're betting this one, make sure you're looking at the starting pitcher situation here. Luis Medina has had an opener, I believe, a couple times this season. Sonny Gray obviously won't, so no worries on that one. Just something to keep in mind. You never really know with these young guys, with these teams, what they'll do in these situations. Just kind of keep note of that. Otherwise, though, massive starting pitcher hedge behind Sonny Gray. A 2.80 ERA, quietly, just an incredible pitcher, a guy we've talked about a lot of these Twins pitchers. This Twins team, I think, better than their record because of all those pitching injuries. FIP for Sonny Gray, 285, xFIP 366. I mean, every bit deserving of that grade in the 70s. Luis Medina, 5.64 ERA. FIP and xFIP in the upper fours, so maybe not quite as bad. He's a little bit better than some of the A starters, but definitely not a great one. Of course, we all know the A's relievers have been their biggest undoing all season. It's why you're never out of the game when you're playing the A's. Offense, again, I don't know how many times we've talked about it. This A's offense isn't bad, and lo and behold, look at that offensive grade, basically a 90. I mean, it's crazy to think how terrible this team is.
Yeah,
and their offensive grade's around a 90.
Yeah, and I like how, at least throughout the season, when you started putting grades on first 5 picks, that was beneficial because then it was like anytime we can generally exclude the A's bullpen, all of a sudden it becomes much more enjoyable to back the A's.
Yeah, almost, and it wasn't exactly, but it did kind of become a thing where it's like, if you're looking to back the A's, do it first 5. If you're looking to fade, take the full game. And the market knew that as well. But again, the reason we have the probabilities is my model, based off my math, based off of seeing these relievers, did not think that the markets were separating them enough. And I've noticed this with these bigger odds. The market tends to treat the probability you win the first 5 in the full game as similar. And I don't think that's accurate because it's just like we talk about football all the time. How do you, or college basketball, right? What's the biggest way to pull an upset in college basketball? Why we always talk about why Virginia shouldn't play slow for all those years, right? Minimize the possessions, wonky things happen, you pull the upset. Right? College football, same thing. That's why Sam Houston plays so slow. They know if they play fast. That's why we always talked about Nick Saban. Why it was so crazy. He was so anti going so fast because, like, if you're good, you want more possessions, right? It's the same thing here. You don't have possessions like you do in football and basketball. You have innings, and I don't think the book's quite adjusted very well for that first 5. It's like there needed to be a bigger gap here. The A's, if you're going to play them, it's much better first 5. If you're going to fade them, it's much better full game. We're going to fade them here at least one last time. I don't know how many more chances we'll get at reasonable prices. Twins -1 is an A grade play up -195. Model says the Twins win 76% of the time. The A grade price on the money line is -263. The current price -255. So just ekes into an A grade. Run line, A grade price -121, actual price -122. So a B plus. When you combine them, it works out probabilistically where it just ekes into the A grade threshold. whether it's run line, money line, -1, Twins are pretty strong play. And again, probably not as much on the first 5 because the Twins have a better chance of hanging around, but over the full game, we like their chances to get it done, whether it's early or late. Cousin Jared, what do you got on this one?
Last time I was on the show, I talked about how much fun it's been backing the Twins this season. I talked about enjoying backing Pablo Lopez, but Sonny Gray is one of the other pitchers that I have thoroughly enjoyed backing this year when he's taking the mound for the Twins. So that's the biggest thing here. And I feel like I kind of have to eat crow because I said the A's would somehow win 60 games. And by golly, they did everything they could to prove me wrong on that one. But somehow we were extremely profitable fading the A's and backing the A's at the same time this year. One of the teams, I mean, good teams win, great teams cover. And so the A's have been great in my eyes this season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Of note here, I was thinking about this just as again, we are trying to be somewhat of an educational show as well. Some of you may already know this, but I was thinking about this today. One of the reasons why people, I think, are afraid of bigger odds is, I mean, there's obviously the big thing, right? Everyone knows, like, big minus odds aren't fun because your payouts not very big. Big plus odds, right? You're scared you're just never going to hit one, right? So that aside, something from a mathematical standpoint to think about here is we have to remember that around even money, every nickel difference in price is about a 1% shift in probability. We haven't talked about this much, Jared. We talked about it early in the season. We talked about it, but just as a reminder for people, the further away you get from even money, that 1% probability needs a bigger jump. And so the jumps in price, they cost you the same amount from your wallet, but they don't benefit you the same. And so that's the thing to keep in mind here. The A grade threshold for this money line at 263, B grade's minus 292. If this was closer to even money, it would not be 30 cents apart, but you need a 30-cent differential. That's 2%. The difference between A grade and B grade in my model is 2%. So that 2% cost takes you 30 cents, but around even money, 2% costs you less than 10 cents. And so it's just something to kind of, for people to keep in the back of their mind that you pay the same price, but it doesn't translate to the same in probability. It's a fun math thing, but just something to keep in mind here. It's kind of one of the reasons why we like doing the -1, saves you on the price a little bit. I personally just hate the -1.5. I feel like if it's a tight game, I don't know what to root for. So that's just my rule. Cousin Jared, I'm curious, what is your approach to this game personally? The money line, the run line, or the -1?
Probably the -1 with, like we talked about, how bad that A's bullpen is. I'm willing to take the risk at pushing if the Twins win by 1. And especially if, like I said, A's bullpen being very, very, I'm going to go with not good. And this doesn't quite meet my threshold, not a high enough total for me to lay a 1.5, which I like to do if the total is up around double digits. So not quite enough runs in this game for me to do this one. But yeah, it's just too steep on the money line, -255, where I can guarantee a push at -1.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good there to save because again, you're not changing the probability, you are changing the actual amount of money that you're saving in the moving those cents. So moving from 195 or 255 to 195 is good. I personally, I'm like, I like the -1 here. It is a little bit steeper than the run line, but personally, I like that protection of if it gets late, I could just root for them to win and move on with life, get my money back. If you want to be a little more aggressive though, run line again, right now, a B plus pick, definitely worth something to have on your card here for Thursday afternoon, which takes us to another Thursday afternoon game. Royals at the Tigers. For the first time all season, a pitcher's name too long for me to fit on the slides. SGL, Sawyer Gibson Long. I could not fit Gibson Long. And I was like, man, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know if he'd rather go by Gibson Long. He has both. So I'm just going to go with SGL. That's what he'll forever be known as until he calls us and tells us, don't call him that. 2.40 ERA in his 15 innings this season. We talked about it last time out. I'm really high on this guy. 95 grade for a prospect is fantastic. Tigers got young, good pitching, just like they're growing off of trees. It's crazy what they can do there. Their issue, of course, has been the bats just didn't quite going enough to keep them in an AL Central that, because of all the Twins injuries, could have been there for the taking for the Tigers to kind of randomly hang in there and make that a race. Yeah. Almost like the Reds were able to do in the Central for a while before the Brewers really pulled away. Couldn't quite get it done. Those bats not very good. Bats better than the Royals, though. Cole Reagan's been quite a success story here this last couple of months for the Royals. My good Rangers friend, given all their injuries, has asked if they could have him back. I told him, unfortunately, no. That's not the way the Royals work. Royals reliever's not very good. I love Cole Reagans. The issue here is that he's the only edge the Royals have in this game. It's not even in Kansas City. And we're getting a pretty good price on the Tigers here. Minus 108. B grade pick. A grade threshold would be basically even money or better. So minus 108, still pretty good value. Because, Jared, the people I think are going to say, how can you fade Cole Reagans? What's your response?
Well, my response is that I, like you, am high on Gibson Long. I have been impressed with what I've seen so far. Maybe I'm just getting carried away with small sample size. But to your point, when you come into the league and Sideline has already given you a 95 rating, that's telling me that Sideline's seeing something as well. So that's the number one thing I'm impressed with what I've seen from him. The other thing is the Royals are just an awful team. I mean, they're an awful team. They're
other than playing the Astros, apparently.
Well, that's neither here nor there. But especially outside, excluding the last series against the Astros, the Royals are 20-56 on the road for the season. It's just not good. They don't play well enough away from home. Of course, funny enough, the Detroit Tigers are actually above 500 team on the road this year, but a sub 500 team at home. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, so it's really just the fact that Gibson Long, I like what I've seen from him. The Royals are terrible on the road. And like you said, every other advantage points to the Tigers here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's value on this pick in that we are placing our faith in a young pitcher who does only have 15 innings, but the model's very high on against a pitcher that everyone's been riding is hot. We like him. But I think people are overvaluing that and not realizing that the guy that he'll be opposing is pretty good. If you disagree with that take, then you probably don't think there's any value in this game. So we sometimes try to talk about, hey, we're not trying to tell everyone exactly what to do. We're telling you why we like what we like. And that's the case. If you, for whatever reason, you look at Sawyer Gibson Long, who again, it's a small sample size, but 266 FIP. So it's not like it's, just smoke and mirrors, good projection using his minor league data. A guy, we're high, but if you aren't, then you probably don't think there's value in this game. But that's kind of where we're taking advantage of, hey, how many more opportunities are we going to have to back this guy? He's a guy I can see having a lot of offseason hype entering the Tigers rotation next year. I can see the Tigers in general having a lot of offseason hype. They always seem to have good young pitchers. Between Gibson Long, Skubal, and a couple of other guys, they should be set in the rotation. The relievers have always been solid. So it's a team that's got some promise here. And so not to say that Cole Reagans doesn't. It's just, again, everywhere else the Tigers will have an advantage, especially in the bullpen. That helps out a lot because it's not like they need Gibson Long to do more than the 5 innings that he's gone in his first 3 starts. He gets them 5, turns over to a good bullpen. We got a shot here with the Tigers at home. Of note, Cole Reagans' last 2 starts out, 12 innings, 7 runs, and 2 starts against the Astros. Kind of is what it is. I'm not really saying that's good or bad, just pointing out he did have to face the Astros, didn't do great against them. Tigers bat's not as good. So it's not like I'm expecting him to give up 5 runs against the Tigers. It's just that, again, he can give up a few runs. The Tigers don't need to get too many off of him. And again, the Tigers will be able to face the Royals bullpen, which is a huge advantage in any game. To the night games here, Marlins at Mets, 7:10 p.m. Jesus Luzardo will face off against David Peterson. Luzardo, 3.77 ERA. Underlying metrics line up exactly with that. He's been a pitcher that's been very up and down. As someone who rosters him in fantasy, has had some stretches where it's like, this guy's going to win a freaking Cy Young before his career's done. And then times you're like, he's not going to finish, two more seasons in the major leagues. But on the whole, it's been pretty good. Gets an 87 grade. You just never know what you're going to get from him. David Peterson, a guy last time we talked about him, and it is no different. If you look at ERA, you have to be really concerned with David Peterson. 5.37 ERA. If you like FIP, you say, meh. 4.45 ERA. But if you're an XFIP kind of guy, and I have to wonder with David Peterson, if the XFIP is a little bit more telling, that FIP being higher than the XFIP means his home run rate is a little bit higher. You don't expect that in a very pitcher-friendly city park. And so I'm a little bit higher on him in his home starts because he's given a bunch of home runs. I don't think that's going to hold as much there. On the road, I don't know. On the road, there are theories. There's the long arguments between FIP and XFIP. Is he going to have a higher home run rate, et cetera, away from home at different parks? But City feels pretty pitcher friendly. So I'm a little bit higher on him at home. Both these offenses, bullpens. Marlins okay, Mets not. That's kind of the biggest concern with this under. But in general, you got a pitcher friendly ballpark, upper 50s, wind blowing in at 10 miles an hour. it's going to set up to play like the old Polo Grounds, basically, there in New York on Thursday night. Under 7.5, plus 105. Gets it to kind of a C+ grade here. Model says 7.2, but the plus odds here are really enticing. In reality, this feels, again, it's like right on the threshold of a B grade given those plus odds. Cousin Jared, you had a bunch of games to pick from for a handful of the totals. This is the total that jumped out to you. Tell us why.
Well, first of all, you mentioned there's a lot of arguments about FIP and XFIP online. I just got this vision of the professors sitting at like some sabermetrics subreddit arguing about the benefits of XFIP and FIP with other people, similar-minded people on the internet. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. So
thankfully that's not happening.
Okay. Well, if you thought that I was going to leave my last appearance on this show without taking it under, then you are completely incorrect. And getting an under 7.5 at plus odds, this is like a dream come true for me. You mentioned the weather, all that stuff. Peterson, about his home runs, depending on whether you look at XFIP or home runs allowed, whether you look at XFIP or FIP. Doesn't really matter, in my opinion, because the weather is going to be helping that as well. You got a big double-digit weather adjustment based on what Sideline's seeing right now. The Marlins offense, is the Marlins offense. So to me, this was just two pretty good pitchers, solid pitchers, good weather, and a chance to take an under at plus odds. That's really all that I need.
This is a fly ball pitcher's dream to play at a park like Citi Field that's got some extra foul ground, maybe not quite as much as Oakland, but it's got a lot of foul ground there. Wind blowing in, cold night, get pop-ups. They're likely to be more likely to be caught in foul ground. They're more likely to be caught in the outfield. Routine fly home runs are going to turn into deep fly balls that are caught. They're going to be hung up in the wind along the outfielder's catcher. For a fly ball pitcher, this is your dream. And that's kind of been Peterson's a little bit undoing. But I don't think that's going to be a problem here tonight. You also have to look at the Marlins. There is a guy like Soler who can hit the ball a country mile. But the Marlins don't have a ton of guys like that. If you're facing a team just up and down the lineup, I kind of think the Padres have like 4 or 5 guys you feel like can hit a ball a mile, and it doesn't really matter what the weather is. The weather's just going to change it from being 440 to 400, right? Right. Marlins, I don't think have a ton of guys like that, that are just going to just destroy a ball. So again, weather should really help out. So under 7.5, they're at plus odds. Which takes us to our pitcher prop of the day. We're going Luke Weaver under 4.5 strikeouts. It's juiced enough so that our friends at Outlier.bet do not believe it to be a plus expected value play. I think it's a strong investment, though. You can see he's gone under this number 58% of the time. Jay's not a heavy strikeout team. Luke Weaver pitched really well last time out. Don't really know what that was about. That was very surprising. But what I will say is he didn't have a lot of strikeouts in that appearance. Pretty low strikeout guy in general. Cousin Jared, thoughts from you?
I mean, I think that Luke Weaver is somewhere in like the 22nd percentile of throwing strikeouts this season. That's not good. It's not very good, and it lends itself to going under a number like 4.5. And then you've got the Blue Jays offense, which just in general tends to not strike out too much. They're one of the better teams at avoiding striking out. So you would also think that being in the season, these guys probably have a relatively short hook. I don't think they're going to leave a guy like Luke Weaver out there for 7 innings just to eat up innings for no reason. So I don't think Luke Weaver's the guy to go over 4.5 against this Blue Jays offense.
Yeah, Blue Jays 11th of the season in strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching, 8th in the last 30 days. So again, like kind of a team that doesn't really strike out a ton, hasn't struck out a lot against a righty here. A little bit of juice, but worth the investment, we think, here on Thursday. We'll see if we can keep rolling with the pitcher props. Again, Outlier.bet/professor, 7-day free trial to check out all the player props. Tons of plus expected value plays on pitchers, hitters, other sports, all sorts of goodies. Otherwise, that'll do it for us here. Cousin Jared, parting words.
I'll be back on opening day, and I'll make the same joke that I've made 2 years in a row, that the grass is green, the birds are chirping, and my allergies are killing me, so it must be baseball season. So we'll see you in about 6 months.
You gotta find a joke for the end of the season, right? The grass is worn and the birds are like
I would love to tell you that there is a cool breeze in the air, fall is upon us, but it's not the case. It's still hot. here.
You're living in the wrong place.
I am living.
It's not the There are a lot of people around the country who are able to say that this time of year, but unfortunately, I are not. Next year, I will be one of those. I'll be able to say that, but you will not, unfortunately. No. So that'll do us here for this baseball show. Again, check us out on Dub Club. All sorts of benefits there, cost under $1 a day. Because you are about to run through the rest of the entire college football slate. We're going to be up probably to about 3 a.m. doing that. Is my guess.
Feels right.
It'll be good times over there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, best of luck, and we'll see y'all later.